clown, the boozer, the fighter, all are sleeping on the hill. One passed in a fever, one was burned in a mine, one was killed in a brawl, one died in a jail, one fell from a bridge, toiling for children and wife. All are sleeping, sleeping, sleeping on the hill. Where are Elegate, Magazine Eater, the tender heart, the simple soul, the loud, the proud, the happy one? Oh, all are sleeping on a hill. One died in shameful childbirth, one of a thwarted love, one at the hands of a brute in a brothel, one of a broken pride in a search for heart's desire, one afterlife in faraway London and Paris was brought to her little space by Ella and Kate and Mag. All are sleeping, sleeping, sleeping on the hill. Well, our Uncle Isaac and Aunt Emily and old Tony Kincaid and Stephen Houghton and Major Walker, who had talked with venerable men of the Revolution. All are sleeping on the hill. They brought them dead sons from the war and daughters whom life had crushed, and their children fatherless crying. All are sleeping, sleeping, sleeping on the hill.
I bought every kind of machine that's known. Grinders, shellers, planters, mowers, mills and rakes, and plows and threshers, and all of them stood in the rain and sun, getting rusted, warped, and battered. For I had no sheds to store them in, and no use for most of them, and toward the last, when I thought it over, there by my window, growing clearer about myself as my pulse slowed down and looked. At one of the mills I bought, which I didn't have the slightest need of, as things turned out, and I never ran. A fine machine, once brightly varnished and eager to do its work, now with its paint washed off, I saw myself as a good machine that life had never used. I saw myself as a good machine that life had never used. I saw myself as a good machine that life had never used, that life had never used. My mother was for woman's rights, and my father was the rich miller at London Mills. I dreamed of the wrongs of the world and wanted to right them. When my father died, I set out to see peoples and countries in order to learn how to reform the world. I traveled through many lands. I saw the ruins of Rome and the ruins of Athens and the ruins of these, and I sat by moonlight amid the necropolis of Memphis. There I was, caught up by winds of flame, and a voice from heaven said to me, yours just injustice, untruth, destroy them, go forth, preach justice, preach truth in your pour the shoes in my cafe. And I hastened back to Spoon River to say farewell to my mother before beginning my work. They all saw a strange light in my eye, and by, when I talked, they discovered my eye. And by, when I talked, they discovered to say farewell to my mother before beginning my work. They all saw a strange light in my eye. And by, when I talk, they discovered what it caught in my mind. And Jonathan Swift Summers challenged me to debate the subject. I taken the negative Pontius Pilate, the greatest philosopher. I look like Abraham Lincoln, I was one of you. Spoon River in all fellowship, but standing for the rights of property and for a regular church attendant. Sometimes appearing in your town meetings to warn you against the evils of discontent and envy, and to denounce those who try to destroy the Union, and to point to the peril of the Knights of Labor. My success and my example are inevitable influences in your young men and in generations to come. In spite of attacks of newspapers like a Clarion, a regular visitor at Springfield when the legislature was in session to prevent raids upon the railroads, and the men building up the state, trusted by them and by you. Spoon River equally, in spite of the whispers that I was a lobbyist, moving quietly through the world, rich and courted, lying at last, of course, but lying here under a stone with an open book carved upon it, and the words of such is the kingdom of heaven. And now you world savers who reap nothing in life, and in death have neither stones nor epitaphs, how do you like your silence from mouth stopped with the dust of my triumphant career? With the dust of my triumphant career, with the dust of my triumphant career.
How many times during the 20 years I was your leader, friends of Spoon River, did you neglect the convention and caucus and leave the burden on my hands of guarding and saving the people's cause? Sometimes because you were ill, or your grandmother was ill, or you drank too much and fell asleep, or else you said he is our leader. All will be well, he fights for us. We have nothing to do but follow in her. But oh how he cursed me when I fell, and cursed me saying I had betrayed you in leaving the caucus room for a moment, when the people's enemies there assembled, waited and watched for a chance to destroy the sacred rights of the people. You come and rattle, I left the caucus to destroy. the sacred rights of the people, you common rabble. I left the caucus to go to the urinal, you common rabble. I left the caucus to go to the urinal.
Nothing in life is alien to you. I was a penniless girl from someone who stepped from the morning train in Spoon River. All the houses stood before me with closed doors and drawn shades. It was barred out. I had no place or part in any of them, and I walked past the old McNeely mansion, a castle of stone, mid walks and gardens with workmen about the place on guard, and the county and state upholding it for its lordly owner, full of pride. I was so hungry, I had a vision. I saw a giant pair of scissors tip from the sky like the beam of a dredge and cut the house in two like a curtain. But at the commercial, I saw a man who winked at me as I asked for work. It was Wash McNeely's son. He proved a link in the chain of title to have my ownership of the mansion through a breach of promise suit, the scissors. So you see, the house from the day I was born was only waiting for me. So you see, the house from the day I was born was only waiting for me.
Yeah, when I die, a circulating library which I built up for Spoon River and managed for the good of inquiring minds, was sold at auction on the public square, as if to destroy the last vestige of my memory and influence. For those of you who could not see the virtue of knowing, Volney's ruins, as well as Butler's Analogy, and Fausti's well as Evangeline, were really the power in the village. And often you asked me, what is the use of knowing the evil in the world? I am out of your way now. Spoon River, choose your own good and call it good. For I could never make you see that no one knows what is good. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Who knows not what is evil, and no one knows what is true. Who knows not what is false? Choose your own good and call it good. For I can never make you see. Choose your own good and call it good. For I could never make you see. Choose your own good and call it good. It was only a little house of 2 rooms, almost like a child's playhouse, with the scarce 5 acres of ground around it. And I had so many children to feed, and school and clothes, and a wife who was sick from bearing children. One day Lawyer Whitney came along and proved to me that Christian dogma who owned 3,000 acres of land, had bought the 80 that adjoined me in 1871 for $11 at a sale for taxes, while my father lay in his mortal illness. So the quarrel arose and I went to law. But when we came to the proof, a survey of the land showed clear as day Vic Dahlman's tax deed covered my ground, and my little house of 2 rooms served me right for stirring him up. I lost my case and lost my place. I left the courtroom and went to work as Christian Dahlman's tenant.
When I first came to Spoon River, I did not know whether what they told me was true or false. They would bring me the epitaph and stand around the shop while I worked and say he was so kind. He was so wonderful. She was the sweetest woman. He was a consistent Christian. And I chiseled for them whatever they wished, all in ignorance of the truth. But later, as I lived among the people here, I knew how near to the life were the epitaphs that were ordered for them as they died. But still I chiseled whatever they paid me to chisel, and made myself party the false chronicles of the stones. Even as the historian does who writes without knowing the truth, or because he is influenced to hide it without knowing the truth, or because he is influenced to hide it.
There was moonlight, and the earth sparkled with new fallen frost. It was midnight, and not a soul abroad out of the chimney of the quartered house. A greyhound, a smoke leapt and chased the northwest wind. I carried a ladder to the landing of the stairs and leaned it against the frame of the trapdoor in the ceiling of the portico. And I crawled under the roof and amid the rafters and flung among the seasoned timbers a lighted handful of oil-soaked waste. Then I came down and slunk away. In a little while, the fire bell rang. Clack, clack, clack. And the Spoon River Ladder Company came with a dozen buckets and began to pour water on the glorious bonfire, growing hotter, higher and brighter, till the walls fell in. And the limestone columns where Lincoln stood crashed like trees when the woodmen felled them. When I came back from Joliet, there was a courthouse with a dome, for I was punished like all who strove. The past for the sake of the future. The past for the sake of the future. buzzards wheel slowly in wide circles in a sky faintly hazy as from dust from the road, and a wind sweeps through the pasture where I lie, beating the grass into long waves. My kite is above the wind, though now and then it wobbles like a man shaking his shoulders, and the tail streams out momentarily, then sinks to rest, and the buzzards wheel and wheel, sweep in the zenith with wide circles above my kite, and the hills sleep, and a farmhouse white as snow peeps from green trees far away. And I watch my kite, for the thin moon will kindle herself ere long, then she will swing like a pendulum dial to the tail of my kite. A spurt of flame like a water dragon dazzles my eyes. I am shaken as a banner, dazzles my eyes. I am shaken as a banner. Is it true, Spoon River, that in the hallway of the new courthouse there is a tablet of bronze containing the embossed faces of Edgar Lee and Thomas Rhodes? And is it true that my successful labors in the county board, without which not one stone would have been placed on another, and the contributions out of my own pocket to build the temple are but memories among the people, gradually fading away and soon to descend within to this oblivion where I lie? In truth, I can so believe, for it is a law of the kingdom of heaven that whoso enters the vineyard at the 11th hour shall receive a full day's pay. And it is a law of the kingdom of this world that those who first oppose a good work seize it and make it their own. And the cornerstone is laid, and memorial tablets are erected when the cornerstone is laid, and memorial tablets. The white men played all sorts of jokes on me. They took the big fish off my hook and put little ones on while I was away getting the stringer, and made me believe I hadn't seen her right. The fish I had caught when Murray Robbins' circus came to town. They got the ringmaster to let a tame leopard into the ring and made me believe I was whipping a wild beast like Samson when I, for an offer of $50, dragged him out to his cage. One time I entered my blacksmith shop and shook as I saw some horseshoes crawling across the floor as if alive. Walter Simmons had put a magnet under the barrel of water. Yet every one of you white men, was fooled about fish and about leopards too. And you didn't know any more than the horseshoes did. What moved you about Spoon River? What moved you about Spoon River? Spoon River, Spoon River, Spoon River, Spoon River, Spoon River. I made 2 fights for the people. First I left my party bearing the gonfalon of independence, for reforming was defeated. Next I used my rebel strength to capture the standard of my old party. And I captured it, but I was defeated, discredited, and discarded, misanthropical. I turned to the solace of gold, and I used my remnant of power to fasten myself like a saprophyte upon the putrescent carcass of Thomas Rowe's bankrupt bank. As a signee of the fund, everyone now turned from me. My hair grew white, my purple lusts grew gray. Tobacco and whiskey lost their savor, and for years death ignored me as he does a hog. The bank broke and I lost my savings. I was sick of the tiresome game Spoon River, and I made up my mind to run away and leave my place in life and my family. But just as the midnight train pulled in, quick off the steps jumped Cully Gray and Martin Vise, and began to fight to settle their ancient rivalry, striking each other with fists that sounded like the blows of knotted clubs. Now it seemed to me that Cully was winning when his bloody face broke into your grin, a sickly cowardice, Leon Martin, and whining out, "We're good friends, Martin. You know that I'm your friend." But a terrible punch from Martin knocked him around and into a heap. And then they arrested me as a witness, and I lost my train and stayed in Spoon River to wage my battle of life to the end. Oh, Cully Green, you were my savior. You so ashamed and took 4 years, loitering listless about the streets and tying rags round your festering soul, who failed to fight it out, to fight it out. I wanted to be county judge one more term, so as to round out a service of 30 years. But my friends left me and joined my enemies, and they elected a new man. Then a spirit of revenge seized me, and I infected my 4 sons with it, and I brooded upon retaliation until the great physician nature smote me through with paralysis to give my soul and body a rest. Did my sons get power and money? Did they serve the people, or you come to the till and harvest fields of self? For how could they ever forget my face at my bedroom window, sitting helpless amid my golden cages of singing canaries, looking at the old courthouse, sitting helpless amid my golden cages of singing canaries. I reached the highest place in Spoon River, but through what bitterness of spirit, the face of my father sitting speechless, childlike, watching his canaries and looking at the courthouse window of the county judge's room, and his admonitions to me to seek my own in life and punish Spoon River, to avenge the wrong the people did him, filled me with furious energy to seek for wealth and seek for power. But what did he do but send me along the path that leads to the grove of the Furies? I followed the path, and I tell you this: on the way to the grove you'll pass the Fates, shadow eyes bent over their weaving. Stop for a moment, and if you see the thread of revenge leap out of the shuttle, then quickly snatch from Atropos their shears and cut it, lest your sons and the children of them and their children wear the envenomed robe. Why was I not devoured by self-contempt and rotted down by indifference and impotent revolt, like Indignation Jones? Why with all of my errant steps did I miss the fate of Willard Fluke? And why, though I stood at Burchard's bar as a sort of decoy for the house to the boys to buy the drinks, did the curse of drink fall on me like rain that runs off, leaving the soul of me dry and clean? And why did I never kill a man like Jack McGuire, but instead I mounted a little in life, and I owe it all to a book I read? But why did I go to Mason City, where a chance to see the book in a window with its garish cover luring my eye? And why did my soul respond to the book as I read it over and over? My thanks, friends of the county Scientific Association, for this modest boulder and its little tablet of bronze. Twice I tried to join your honored body and was rejected. And when my little brochure on the intelligence of plants began to attract attention, you almost voted me in. After that I grew beyond the need of you and your recognition, yet I do not reject your memorial stone, seeing that I should in so doing deprive you of honor to yourselves. honor to yourselves. After that, I grew beyond the need of you and your recognition. Honor to yourselves.
Tell me, was Edgar elected governor for when the returns began to come in, and Cleveland was sweeping the east? It was too much for you, poor old heart, who had striven for democracy in the long, long years of defeat. And like a watch, that is what I felt you, growing slower until you stopped. Tell me, was Edgar elected? And what did I do? Did they bring his head on a platter to a dancer? Or did he triumph for the people? For when I saw him and took his hand, the childlike blueness of his eyes moved me to tears. And there was an air of eternity about him, like the cold, clear light that rests at dawn on the hills. Like the cold, clear light that rests at dawn on the hills. I loved you, Spoon River. I tried to rise above you. I was ashamed of you. I despised you as the place of my nativity. And there in Rome, among the artists, speaking Italian, speaking French, I seem to myself at times to be free of every trace of my origin. I seem to be reaching the heights of art and to breathe the air that the masters breathed, and to see the world with their eyes. But still they'd pass my work and say, "What are you driving at, my friend?" Sometimes the face looks like Apollo's, and others it has a trace of Lincoln's. There was no culture, you know, in Spoon River, and I burned with shame and held my peace. And what could I do? All covered over and weighted down with western soil, accept a spire and pray for another earth in the world, with all of Spoon River rooted out of my soul. First, I suspected something. She acted so calm and absent-minded. And one day I heard the back door shut as I entered the front, and I saw him slink back to the smokehouse, into the lot, and run across the field. And I meant to kill him on sight, but that day walking near Fourth Bridge without a stick or a stone at hand, all of a sudden I saw him standing, scared to death, holding his rabbits. And all I could say was, don't as he aimed and fired at my heart. Don't, as he aimed and fired at my heart. Don't.
Silent before the jury, returning no word to the judge when he asked me if I had aught to say against this sentence. Only shaking my head. What could I say to people who thought that a woman of 35 was at fault when her lover of 19 killed her husband, even though she had said to him over and over, "Go away, Elmer, go far away." I have maddened your brain with the gift of my body. You will do some terrible thing, and just as I feared, he killed my husband, with which I had nothing to do. Before God, silent for 30 years in prison, and the iron gates of Joliet that swung as the grave, and silent trustees carried me out in a coffin, and silent trustees carried me out in a coffin.
What but the love of God could have softened and made forgiving the people of Spoon River toward me who wronged the bed of Thomas Meredith and murdered him beside oh loving hearts that took me in again when I returned from 14 years in prison. Oh, helping hands that in the church received me and heard with tears my penitent confession, who took the sacrament of bread and wine. Repent, ye living ones, and rest with Jesus.
Dust of my dust, and dust with my dust, O child who died as you entered the world. Dead with my death, not knowing breath, though you tried so hard with a heart that beat when you lived with me, and stopped when you left me for life. It is well, my child, for you never traveled the long, long way that begins with school days, when little figures blur under the tears that fall on the crooked letters and the earliest wound, when a little mate leaves you alone for another, in sickness and the face of time, fear by the bed, the death of a father or mother, or shame for them, or poverty, the maiden sorrow of school days ended, an eyeless nature that makes you drink from the cup of love, though you know it's poison. To whom would the flower face have been lifted, botanist, weakling cry of what blood to yours, pure or foul, for it makes no matter, it's poisoned. To whom would your flower face have been lifted, botanist, weakling cry of what blood to yours, pure or foul,
for it makes no matter. It's blood that calls to all blood. And then your children, oh, what might they be? And what you saw, child, death, death. We stand about this place, we say the memories, and shade our eyes because we dread to read. June 17th, 1884, age 21 years and 3 days, and all things are changed, and we the memories stand here for ourselves alone, where no poor eye marks us, or we know why we are here. Your husband is dead, your sister lives far away, your father is bent with age. He has forgotten you, he scarcely leaves the house anymore. No one remembers your exquisite face, your lyric voice, how you sang, even on the morning you were stricken with piercing sweetness, with thrilling sorrow, before the advent of the child which died with you. It is all forgotten, saved by us, the memories who are forgotten by the world. All is changed, save the river and the hill, even they are changed. Only the burning sun and the quiet stars are the same, and we the memories stand here in awe, our eyes closed with the weariness of tears.
You are over there, Father Malloy, where holy ground is, and the cross marks every grave. Not here with us on the hill, us of wavering faith and clouded vision, and drifting hope and unforgiven sins. You were so human, Father Malloy, taking a friendly glass sometimes with us, siding with us, who would rescue Spoon River from the coldness and the dreariness of village morality. You were like a traveler who brings a little box of sand from the waste about the pyramids and makes them real, and Egypt real. You were a part of and related to a great past, and yet young were so close to many of us. You believed in the joy of life. You did not seem to be ashamed of the flesh. You faced life as it is, and as it changes. Some of us almost came to you, Father Malloy. See how your church had divined the heart and provided for it.
Not a youth with hoary head and haggard eye, but an old man with a smooth skin and black hair. I had the face of a boy as long as I lived. And for years, a soul that was stiff and bent, in a world which saw me just as a jest, to be hailed familiarly when it chose, unloaded up as a man when it chose, being neither man nor boy. In truth it was soul as well as body, which never matured. And I say to you that the much sought prize of eternal youth is just arrested growth. That the much sought prize of eternal youth is just arrested growth. That the much sought prize of eternal youth is just arrested growth. Ye who are kicking against fate, tell me how it is that on this hillside, running down to the river which fronts the sun and the south wind, this land draws from the air and soar poison, and becomes poison out of thee. And this plant draws from the same air and soil sweet elixirs and colors, and becomes our beauties, and both flourish. You may blame Spoon River for what it is, but whom do you blame for the will in you that feeds itself and makes you darkweed, Jimson, dandelion, or mullein, and which can never use any soil or air so as to make you jessamine or wisteria. Whoever thou art who passes by, know that my father was gentle and my mother was violent. While I was born, the whole of such hostile halves, not intermixed and accused, but each distinct, feebly soldered together. Some of you saw me as gentle, some as violent, some as both, but neither half of me wrought my ruin. It was the falling asunder of halves, never a part of each other, that left me a lifeless soul. You never understood, oh unknown one, why was I repaid your devoted friendship and delicate ministrations, first with diminished thanks, afterward by gradually withdrawing my presence from you, so that I might not be compelled to thank you. And then with silence which followed upon our final separation, you had cured my diseased soul, but to cure it, you saw my disease, you knew my secret, and that is why I fled from you. For though when our bodies rise from pain, we kiss forever the watchful hands that gave us wormwood, while we shudder
for thinking of the wormwood. A soul that's cured is a different matter, for there we blot from memory the soft-tongued words, the searching eyes, and stand forever oblivious, not so much of the sorrow itself as of the hand that healed it, not so much of the sorrow itself as of the hand that healed it. I was a gunsmith in Odessa. One night the police broke in the room where a group of us were reading Spencer, and seized our books and arrested us. But I escaped and came to New York, and thence to Chicago, and then to Spoon River, where I could study my can in peace and execute a living repairing guns. Look at my moods, my Arctic tonics. One for the barrel, one for a hammer, and others for other parts of a gun. Well, now suppose no gunsmith living had anything else but duplicate moods. Of these I show you, well, all guns would be alike, with the hammer, the hit, the cap, and a barrel to carry the shot, all acting alike for themselves, and all acting against each other alike. And there would be your world of runs, which nothing could ever free from itself except a molder with different moves to mold the metal over, except a molder with different molds. I was the Sunday school superintendent, the dummy president of the wagon works and the canning factory, acting for Thomas Rhodes and the banking clique. My son, the cashier of the bank, wedded to Rhodes' daughter, Nino. My weekdays spent in making money, my Sundays at church and in prayer. In everything, a cog in the wheel of things as they are, of money, master and man, made white with the paint of the Christian creed. And then the bank collapsed, I stood and hooked at the wrecked machine. The wheels with blowholes stuck with putty and painted, the rotten bolts, the broken rods, and only the hopper for souls fit to be used again in a new devourer of life, with newspapers, judges, and money magicians. Build over again, I was stripped to the bone, but I lay in the rock of ages, seeing now through the game, no longer a dupe, and knowing the upright shall dwell in the land. But the years of the wicked shall be shortened. Then suddenly Dr. Myers discovered a cancer in my liver. I was not, after all, the particular care of God. Why, even thus standing on a peak above the mist through which I had climbed, and ready for larger life in the world, eternal forces Move me on with a push, move me on with a push, move me on with a push.
I was just turned 21, and Henry Phipps, the Sunday school superintendent, made a speech in Bendel's Opera House. The honor of the flag must be upheld, he said, whether it be assailed by a barbarous tribe of Tagalogs or the greatest power in Europe. And we cheered and cheered the speech and the flag he waved as he spoke. And I went to the war in spite of my father, and followed the flag till I saw it raised by our camp in Rice Field near Manila. And all of us cheered and cheered it, but there were flies and poisonous things, and there was the deadly water and the cruel hunt and the sickening portrait food, and the smell of the trench just back of the tents where the soldiers went to empty themselves. And there were the whores who followed us, full of syphilis and beastly acts between ourselves, or alone with bullying, hatred, degradation among us, and days of loathing and nights of fear, to the hour of a charge through the steaming swamp, following the flag till I fell with a scream shot through the guts. Now there's a flag over me in Spoon River, a flag, a flag. Now there's a flag over me in Spoon River. Oh, the dew-wet grass of the meadow in North Carolina, through which Rebecca followed me, wailing, wailing, one child in her arms, and three that ran along wailing, lengthening out the farewell to me off to the war with the British bells. And when the long hard years down to the day of Yorktown, and then my search for Rebecca, finding her at last in Virginia. Two children dead. In the meanwhile, we went by oxen to Tennessee, thence after years to Illinois. At last to Spoon River, we cut the buffalo grass, we felled the forests, we built the schoolhouses, built the bridges, leveled the road, until the fields alone with poverty, scourges, death. If Harry Wilmans, who thought the Filipino is to have a flag on his grave, take it from mine, take it from mine. If Harry Wilmans, who fought the Filipinos, is to have a flag on his grave, take it from mine, take it from mine. idea danced before us as a flag. The sound of martial music, the thrill of carrying a gun, advancement in the world on coming home. A glint of glory, wrath for foes, a dream of duty to country or to God. But these were things in ourselves, shining before us. They were not the power behind us, which was the almighty hand of life, like fire at Earth's center, making mountains or pent-up waters that cut them through. Do you remember the iron band? The blacksmith shack I welded around the oak on Bennett's lawn, from which to swing a hammock that daughter Janet might repose in, reading. On summer afternoons, and at the growing tree, at last sundered the iron began. But not a cell in all the tree knew or say that it grilled with life, nor cared because the hammock fell in the dust with Milton's poems.
Harry Wilmans, you who fell in a swamp near Manila, following the flag. You were not wounded by the greatness of a dream, or destroyed by ineffectual work, or driven to madness by satanic snags. You were not torn by aching nerves, nor did you carry great wounds to your old age. You did not starve, for the government fed you. You did not suffer yet, cried forward to an army which you led against a foe with mocking smiles, sharper than bayonets. You were not smitten down by invisible bonds. You were not rejected by those for whom you were defeated. You did not eat the savorless bread which a poor alchemy had made from ideals. You went to Manila, Harry Wilmans, while I enlisted in the bedraggled army of bright-eyed divine youths who surged forward, who were driven back and fell, sick, broken, crying, shorn of faith, following the flag of the kingdom of heaven. You and I, Harry Wilmans, have fallen in our several ways, not knowing good from bad, deceit from victory, nor what face it is of smiles behind the demoniac mask, not knowing good from bad, defeat from victory, nor what face it is that smiles behind the demoniac mask, not knowing. You may think, passerby, that fate is a pitfall outside of yourself, around which you may walk by the use of foresight and wisdom. Thus you believe, viewing the lives of other men as one who in godlike fashion bends over an anthill, seeing how their difficulties could be avoided, but pass on into life. In time you shall see fate approach you, in the shade of your own image in the mirror. Or you shall sit alone by your own hearth, and suddenly the chair by you shall hold a guest, and you shall know that guest, and read the authentic message of his eyes.
With our hearts like drifting suns, had we but walked as often before the April fields till starlight, silken over with viewless scars. The darkness under the cliff our tracing place in the wood where the brook turns, had we but passed from wooing like notes of music that run together in co-winning, in inspired improvisation of love. But to put back of us as a canticle ended, the rapt enchantment of the flesh, in which our souls swooned down, where time was not, nor space, nor ourselves, annihilated in love, to leave these behind for a room with lamps, and to stand with our sacred mocking itself, and hiding itself amid flowers and mandolins, stared at by all between salad and coffee, and to see him tremble and feel myself petient as one who signs a bond, not flaming with gifts and pledges heaped, with rosy hands over his brow, and then all night deliberate unlovely, with all of our wooing blotted out by the winning, in a chosen room, in an hour that was known to all. Next day he sat so listless, almost cold, so strangely changed, wondering why I wept, till a kind of sick despair on voluptuous madness seized us, to make the pact of death a stalk of the earth's sphere, frail as starlight wings, be drawn once again into creation's stream. But next time to be given birth, gazed at by Raphael and St. Francis, sometimes as they pass, for I am their little beloved, to be known clearly face to face, through a cycle of birth hereafter run. You may know the sea and the soil, you may feel the cold rain fall, but only the earth's sphere, only heaven knows the secret of the sea. In the nuptial chamber under the soil, throw me into the stream again. Give me another trial, save me, Shelley. Out of me, unworthy and unknown, the vibrations of deathless music, with malice toward none, with charity for all. Out of me, the forgiveness of millions, millions toward millions, and the beneficent face of a nation, shining with justice and truth. I am Anne Rutledge, who sleep beneath these rays. Beloved in life of Abraham Lincoln, wedded to him not through union, but through separation, you forever, O Republic, from the dust of my bosom, bloom forever, O Republic.
in a lingering fever, many visions come to you. I was in the little house again, with its graveyard of clover running down to the board fence, shadowed by the oak tree where we children had our swing. Yet the little house was a manor hall, set in a lawn, and by the lawn was the sea. I was in a room where little Paul strangled from diphtheria, but yet it was not this room. It was a sunny veranda, enclosed with a million windows, and in a chair sat a man in a dark cloak. With a face like Euripides, he had come to visit me, or I had gone to visit him, I could not tell. We could hear the beat of the sea, the clover nodded under a summer wind, and little Paul came with clover blossoms to the window and smiled. Then I said, what is divine despair? Alfred, have you read? Tears, 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 tears. Yes, yes, but you do not dare express divine despair. My poor friend, he answered, that was why the despair was divine. That was why the despair was divine.
Your red blossoms amid green leaves are drooping, beautiful geranium. But you do not ask for water, you cannot speak, you do not need to speak. Everyone knows that you are dying of thirst, yet they do not bring water. They pass on saying the geranium wants water. And I, who had happiness to share and long to share your happiness, I who loved you, Spoon River, and craved your love, withered before your eyes. Spoon River, thirsting, thirsting, voiceless from chasteness of soul, to ask you for love. You who knew and saw me perish before you, like this geranium which someone has planted over me and left to die over me.
There by the window in the old house, perched on the bluff overlooking miles of valley, my days of labor closed, sitting out life's decline. Day by day did I look in my memory as one who gazes in an enchantress crystal globe, and I saw the figures of the past as if in a pageant, glassed by a shining dream, move through the incredible sphere of time. And I saw a man arise from the soil like a fabled giant, and throw himself over a deathless destiny. Master of great armies, head of the republic, bringing together into a dithyramb of recreative song the epic hosts of a people, at the same time Vulcan of sovereign fires, where imperishable shields and swords were beaten out from spirits tempered in heaven
Look in the crystal, see how he hastens on to the place where his path comes up to the path of a child of Plutarch and Shakespeare, O Lincoln. Actor indeed, playing well your part, and Booth, who strode in a mimic play within the play. Often and often I saw you as the cawing crows winged their way to the wood. Over my house top at sunsets, there by my window alone. They brought me embrotypes of the old pioneers to you in large, and sometimes one sat for me, someone who was in being, one giant hands from the womb of the world toward the republic. What was it in their eyes? For I could never fathom that mystical pathos of drooped eyelids in the serene sorrow of the eyes. It was like a pool of water amid oak trees at the edge of a forest where the leaves fall, as you hear the crow of a cock from a far-off farmhouse seen near the hills, where the third generation lives, and the strong men and the strong women are gone and for good. And these grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the pioneers, truly did my camera record their faces too, with so much of the old strength gone, and the old faith gone, and the old mastery of life gone, and the old courage gone, that your labors and loves and suffers and sings under the sun.
I wrote him a letter asking him, for old time's sake, to discharge my sick boy from the army. But maybe he couldn't read it. Then I went to town and had James Garber, who wrote beautifully, write him a letter. But maybe that was lost in the mails. So I traveled all the way to Washington. I was more than an hour fighting the White House, and when I found that they turned me away, hiding their smiles, then I thought, oh, well, he ain't the same as when I boarded him. And he and my husband worked together, and all of us called him a bear in Menard. As a last attempt, I turned to a guard and said, please say it's old Aunt Hannah Armstrong from Illinois, come to see him about her sick boy in the army. Well, just in a moment, they let me in, and when he saw me, he broke in a laugh and dropped his business as president and wrote in his own hand, the discharge, talking the while of the early days and telling stories. I went to the dances at Chandlerville and played snap out at Westchester. One time we changed partners, driving home in the moonlight of middle June. I found Davis. We were married and lived together for 70 years, enjoying working, raising the 12 children, 8 of whom we lost ere I had reached the age of 60. I spun, I wove, I kept the house, I nursed the sick, I made the garden, and for holiday rambled over the fields where sang the larks, and by Spoon River gathering many a shell and many a flower and medicinal weed, shouting to the wooded hills, singing to the green valleys. At 96 I had lived enough, that is all, and passed to a sweet repose. What is this I hear of sorrow and weariness, anger, discontent, and drooping hopes, degenerate sons and daughters? Life is too strong for you. It takes a life to love. Life's too strong for you. It takes life's to love.
Poesy is nothing but the hive, that there are thrones and workers and queens, and nothing but storing honey, material things, as well as culture and wisdom for the next generation. This generation never living, except as it swarms in the sunlight of youth. Strength needs wings of what has been gathered and tasting on the way to your hive. From the clover field, the delicate spoil. Suppose all this and suppose the truth, that the nature of man is greater than nature's young in the hive. And you must bear the burden of life, as well as the urge from your spirit's excess. Well, I say to live it out like a god, short of immortal life. Though you are in doubt, is the way to live it. If that doesn't make God proud of you, then God is nothing but gravitation, or sleep is the golden goal. Then God is nothing but gravitation, or sleep is the golden goal.
Not where the stairway turns in the dark, a hooded figure shriveled under a flowing cloak. Not yellow eyes in the room at night, staring out from a surface of cobweb gray. And not the flap of a condor wing, when the roar of life in your ears begins, as a sound heard never before. But out a sunny afternoon, by a country road where purple ragweeds bloom, along a straggling fence, and the field is green, and the air is still, the sea against the sunlight. Something black, like a blot with an iris rim, that is the sign to eyes of second sight. I saw.
This weeping willow, why do you not plant a few for the millions of children not yet born, as well as for us? Are they not non-existent or cells asleep without mind? Or do they come to earth, their birth, rupturing the memory of previous being? Answer: the field of unexplored intuition is yours. But in any case, why not plant willows for them, as well as Ferris, Marie Bateson? You observe the carving hang with the index finger pointing heavenward. That is the direction, no doubt. But how shall one follow it? It is well to abstain from murder and lust, to forgive, do good to others, worship God without graven images. But these are external me's after all, by which you chiefly do good to yourself. The inner kernel is freedom. It is light, purity. I can no more find the goal or lose it according to your vision. The inner kernel is freedom. It is love, purity. I can no more find the goal or lose it according to. I can no more find the goal or lose it according to your vision.
I was the laughingstock of the village, chief fly of the people of good sense, as they call themselves, also as the learned, like Rev Pete, who read Greek, the same as English. For instead of talking free trade or preaching some form of baptism, instead of believing in the efficacy of walking cracks, picking up pins the right way, seeing the new moon over the right shoulder, or curing rheumatism with blue glass, I asserted the sovereignty of my own soul. Before Mary Baker G, Eddie even got started with what she called science, I had mastered the Bhagavad Gita and cured my soul. Before Mary began to cure body with souls, peace to all worlds and cure mere soul.
I began with Sir William Hamilton's lectures, then studied Jewel Stewart, and then John Locke on the understanding, and then Descartes, Fichte and Schelling, Kant, and then Schopenhauer. Books I borrowed from old Judge Summers, all read with rapturous industry, hoping it was reserved to me to grasp the tale of the ultimate secret and drag it out of its hole. My soul flew up 10,000 miles me the moon looked a little bigger. Then I fell back, how glad of the earth, all through the soul of William Jones, who showed me a letter of John Moore, a letter of John Moore. I who kept the greenhouse, lover of trees and flowers, often life saw this umbrageous elm measuring its generous branches with my eye, and listened to its rejoicing leaves lovingly patting each other with sweet Aeolian whispers. And well, they might, for the roots had grown so wild indeed that the soil of the hill could not withhold part of its virtue, enriched by rain and warmed by the sun, but yielded it all to the thrifty roots through which it was drawn, and it whirled to the trunk and thence to the branches and into the leaves, where from the breeze took life and sang. Now I am under tenant of the earth, can see that the branches of a tree spread no wider than its roots. And how shall the soul of a man be larger than the life has lived? How shall the soul of a man be larger than the life he has lived? Samuel is forever talking of his elm, but I did not need to die to learn about roots. I, who dug all the ditches about Spoon River, look at my elm, sprung from as good a seed as is sown. At the same time, it is dying at the top, not from lack of life, nor fungus, nor destroying insect, as the sexton thinks. Yoke Samuel, where the roots have struck rock and can no further spread, and all the while the top of the tree is tiring itself out and dying, trying to grow. Once in a while, a curious weed, unknown to me, needing a name from my books. Once in a while, a letter from yeoman's out of the mussel shells gathered along the shore. Sometimes the pearl with a glint like meadow. Then betimes a letter from Tyndall in England, stamped with the stamp of Spoon River. I, lover of nature, beloved for my love of her, held such converse afar with the great, who knew her better than I. Oh, there is neither lesser nor greater, save as we make her greater, and win from her keener delight. Which shells from the river cover me, cover me. I lived in wonder, worship worship in your heaven. I have passed on the march eternal of endless life. I have passed on the march eternal. To all in the village I seemed, no doubt, to go this way and that way aimlessly. But here by the river you can see at twilight the soft-winged bats fly zigzag here and there. They must fly so to catch their food. And if you have ever lost your way at night in the deep wood near Miller's Ford and dodge this way, and now that wherever the light of the Milky Way shone through, trying to find the path you should understand, I sought the way with earnest zeal, and all my wanderings were wanderings in the quest. Whenever the Presbyterian bell was rung by itself, I knew it as the Presbyterian bell. But when its sound was mingled with the sound of the Methodist, the Christian, the Baptist, and the Congregational, I could no longer distinguish it, nor anyone from the others, or either of them. And as many voices call to be in a life, marvel not that I could not tell the true from the false, nor even at last the voice that I should have known.
At first, you will know not what they mean, and you may never know, and we may never tell you these sudden flashes in your soul, like limpid lightning on snowy clouds at midnight when the moon is full. They come in solitude, or perhaps you sit with your friend, and all at once a silence falls on speech, and his eyes, without a flicker, glow at you. You two have seen the secret together. He sees it in you, and you in him, and there you sit, thrilling lusty over him. Meltery stand before you and strike you dead with a splendor like the sun's. Be brave as souls who have such visions, as your body's alive, as mine is dead. You're watching a little wisp of the ether, reserved for God himself. Be brave, all souls who have such visions.
I was Willie Metcalf. They used to call me Dr. Myers, because they said I looked like him and he was my father, according to Jack McGuire. I lived in the livery stable, sleeping on the floor, side by side with Roger Barman's bulldog, or sometimes in a stall could crawl between the legs of the wildest horses. Without getting kicked, we knew each other. On spring days, I tramped through the country to get the feeling, which I sometimes lost, that I was not a separate thing from the earth. I used to lose myself as if in sleep, by lying with eyes half open in the woods. Sometimes I talked with animals, even toads and snakes, anything that had an eye to look into. Once I saw a stone in the sunshine, trying to turn into jelly. In April days in this cemetery, the dead people gathered all about me and grew still like a congregation in silent prayer. I never knew whether I was a part of the earth with flowers growing in me, or whether I walked, now I know, with flowers growing in me. They called me the weakling, the simpleton, for my brothers were strong and beautiful, while I, the last child of parents who had aged, inherited only their residue of power. But they, my brothers, were eaten up in the fury of the flesh, which I had not made poke in the activity of the senses, which I had not hardened by the growth of the lusts, which I had not. Though they gained names and riches for themselves, then I, the weak one, the simpleton, resting in a little corner of life, saw a vision, and through me many saw the vision, not knowing it was through me. Thus a tree sprang from me, a mustard seed. Yea, young debaters over the doctrine of the soul's immortality, I who lie here was the village atheist, talkative, contentious, versed in the arguments of the infidels. But through a long sickness, coughing myself to death, I read the Upanishads and the poetry of Jesus, and they lighted a torch of hope and intuition and desire, which the shadow leaded me swiftly through the caverns of darkness, could not extinguish. Listen to me, they who live in the senses and think through the senses only. Immortality is not a gift. Immortality is an achievement, and only those who strive mightily shall possess it
only those who strive mightily. In the lust of my strength, I cursed God, but He paid no attention to me. I might as well have cursed the stars. In my last sickness, I was in agony, but I was resolute, and I cursed God for my suffering. Still He paid no attention to me. He left me alone, as I had always done. I might as well have cursed the Presbyterian steeple. Then, as I grew weaker, a terror came over me. Perhaps I had alienated God by cursing Him. One day, Lydia Humphrey brought me a bouquet, and it occurred to me to try to make friends with God. So I tried to make friends with Him, but I might as well have tried to make friends with the bouquet. Now I was very close to the secret, for I really could make friends with the bouquet by holding close to me the love in me for the bouquet. And so I was creeping upon the secret, but so I was creeping upon the secret. Toward the last, the truth of others was untruth to me. The justice of others, injustice to me. Their reasons for death, reasons with me for life. Their reasons for life, reasons with me for death. I would have killed those they saved, and save those they killed. And I saw how a God, if brought to earth, must act out what he saw and thought, and could not live in this world of men, and act among them side by side without continual clashes. The dusts were crawling, heavens were flying. Wherefore, O soul whose wings are grown, soar upward to the sun. Wherefore, O soul whose wings are grown, soar upward to the sun. Wherefore, O soul. They laughed at me as Prophet Moon, as a boy in Spoon River, born with the thirst of knowing about the stars. They jeered when I spoke of the lunar mountains and the thrilling wait and cold, and the ebon valleys by silver peaks and spicker quadrillions of miles away in the littleness of man. But now that my grave is honored, friends, let it not be because I taught the lore of the stars in Knox College, but rather for this, that through the stars I preached the greatness of man, who is none the less a part of a scheme of things from the distance
auspica or the marrow that you lay, Yoreni, the less a part of the question.
At 4 o'clock in late October, I sat alone in the country schoolhouse, back from the road, mid stricken fields, and an eddy of wind blew leaves on the pane and crooned in the flue of the cannon stove with its open door, luring the shadows with the smoke spectral glow of a dying fire. In an idle mood, I was running the planchette all at once. My wrist grew limp and my hand moved rapidly over the board till the name of Charles Guiteau I was spelled, who threatened to materialize before me. I rose and fled from my room bareheaded into the dusk, afraid of my gift. And after that, the spirits swarmed Chaucer, Caesar, Poe, and Marlowe, Cleopatra, and Mrs. Surratt. Wherever I went with messages, mere trifling twaddle, Spoon River agreed. You talk nonsense to children, don't you? And suppose I see what you never saw and never heard of and have no word for. I must talk nonsense when you ask me what it is I see, what it is I see.
Do you remember, passerby, the path I wore across the lot where now stands the Opera House, hasting with swift feet to work through many years, take its meaning to heart. You too may walk after the hills at Miller's Ford, seem no longer far away, young after you see them near at hand. Beyond 4 miles of meadow, and after woman's love is silent, saying no more, I will save you. And after the faces of friends and kindred become as faded photographs, pitifully silent, sad for the look, which means we cannot help you. And after you no longer approach mankind, we've been in league against your soul's uplifted hands, themselves compelled at midnight and at noon to watch with steadfast eye their destinies. After you have these understandings, think of me and of my path back there, and I knew that neither man nor woman, neither toil nor duty, gold nor power can hide the longing of the soul, the loneliness of the soul.
Back and forth, to and from the church, with my Bible under my arm, till I was gray and old, unwedded, alone in the world, finding pastors in the congregation and children in the church. I know they laughed and thought me queer. I knew of the eagle souls that flew high in the sunlight above the spire of the church, and laughed at the church, disdaining me, not ceasing me. But if the higher was sweet to them, sweet was the church to me. It was a vision, vision.
What will you do when you come to die? If all your life long you have rejected Jesus, and know as you lie there, He is not your friend. Over and over I said the revivalist. Ah yes, but there are friends, and blessed are you. Say I who know all now, you who have lost ere you pass. A father or mother, or old grandfather or mother, some beautiful soul that lived a life strongly, and knew you all through, and loved you ever, who would not fail to speak for you, and give God an intimate view of your soul, as only one of your flesh could do it. That is the hand, your hand will reach for me, to lead you along the corridor, to the court where you are a stranger, where you are a stranger. After a long day of work in my hot houses, sleep was sweet, but if you sleep on your left side, your dreams may be abruptly ended. I was among my flowers where someone seemed to be raising them on trial, as if after a while to be transplanted to a larger garden of freer air. And there was disembodied visions amid a light, as if were the sun had floated in and touched the roof of glass, like a toy balloon, and softly bursted. And if you realized in golden air, and all was silence except the splendor, was a man with thoughts as clear as a speaking voice, and I, as thought, could hear a presence think as he left between the boxes, pinching off leaves, looking for bugs and noting values with an eye that saw it all. Homer, oh yes, Theatrical's good. Caesar, Borgia, what shall be done with it? Dante, too much manure perhaps. Napoleon, leave him a while. As yet, Shelley, more soil. Shakespeare needs spraying. Clouds, Napoleon, leave him a while. As yet, Shelley, more soil. Shakespeare needs spraying. Clouds, Did you ever see an alligator come up to the air
from the mud, staring blindly under the full glare of noon. Have you seen the stabled horses at night tremble and start back at the sight of a lantern? Have you ever walked in darkness when an unshown door was open before you, and you stood, it seemed, in the light of 1,000 candles of delicate wax? Have you walked with the wind in your ears and sunlight about you, and found it suddenly shine with an inner splendor out of the mud many times before, made doors of light through many fields of splendor, where around your steps the soundless glory scatters like new fallen snow? Will you go through earth, oh stronger soul, and through unnumbered heavens to the final flame? Oh, you young radicals and dreamers, you dauntless fledglings who pass by my headstone, mock not its record of my captaincy in the army and my faith in God. They are not denials of each other, go by reverently and read with sober care. How a great people, riding with defiant shouts, the centaur of revolution, spurred and whipped to frenzy, shook with terror, seeing the mist of the sea. Over the precipice they were nearing, and fell from his back in precipitator to celebrate the feast of the Supreme Being, moved by the same sense of vast reality, of life and death and burden, as they were with the fate of a race. How was I, a little blasphemer, caught in the drift, the nation's unloosened flood, to remain a blasphemer and a captain in the army, to remain a blasphemer. Who carved this shattered harp on my stone? I die to you, no doubt, but how many harps and pianos wired I and tightened and disentangled for you, making them sweet again with tuning fork or without. Oh well, a harp leaps out of the ear of a man, you say. But whence the ear that orders the length of the strings to a magic of numbers flying before your thought through a door that closes against your breathless wonder? Is there no around the ear of a man that its senses through strings and columns of air, the soul of self? I thrill as I call it a tune and fork that catches the waves of mingled music and light from afar, the antennae of thought that listens through utmost space. In the last spring I ever knew, in those last days I sat in the forsaken orchard, where beyond fields of greenery shimmered the hills at Miller's Ford, just some muse on the apple tree, with its ruined trunk and blasted branches and shoots of green, whose delicate blossoms were sprinkled over the skeleton tangle, never to grow in fruit. And there was I, with my spirit girded by the flesh half dead, the senses numb, yet thinking of youth and the earth, and shunning such phantom blossoms, palely shining over the lifeless boughs of time. Oh, earth that leaves us ere heaven takes us. Had I been only a tree to shiver with dreams of spring and a leafy youth, then I got fallen in the cyclone which swept me out of the soul suspense, where it's neither earth nor heaven. Better than granite, Spoon River is the memory picture you keep of me, standing before the pioneer men and women there at Concord Church on Communion Day, speaking in broken voice of the peasant youth of Galilee, who went to the city and was killed by bankers and lawyers. My voice mingling with the June wind that blew over wheat fields from Atterbury, while the white stones in the burying ground around the church shimmered in the summer sun. And there, though my own memories were too great to bear, were young, oh pioneers, without heads, breathing forth your sorrow for the sons killed in battle, and the daughters and little children who vanished in life's morning, or at the intolerable hour of noon. But in those moments of tragic silence, when wine and bread were passed, came the reconciliation for us. Us the plowmen and the hewers of wood, us the peasants' brothers of the peasant brothers of the peasant of Galilee. To us came the comforter and the consolation of tongues of flame, and the consolation of tongues of fame. They told me I had 3 months to live, so I crept to Bernadette and sat by the mill for hours and hours, where the gathered waters deeply moving seemed not to move. Oh world, that's you
You are but a widened place in the river where life looks down and we rejoice for her, mirrored in us, and so we dream and turn away. But when again we look for the face below the lowlands and blasted cottonwood trees where we empty into the larger stream. But here by the mill, the kissel clouds mark themselves in the dizzy water, and over its agate floor at night the flame of the moon ran under my eyes. Amid a forest, stillness broken by a flute in a hut on the hill. At last, when I came to lie in bed, weekend in pain, with the dreams about me, the soul of the river had entered my soul, and the gathered power of my soul was moving so swiftly it seems to be at rest under cities of cloud and under spheres of silver and changing worlds, until I saw a flash of trumpets above the battlements over time. I was among multitudes of children dancing at the foot of a mountain. A breeze blew out of the east and swept them as leaves, driving some up the slopes. All was changed. Here were flying lights and mystic moons and dream music. A cloud fell on us. When it lifted, all was changed. I was now amid multitudes who were wrangling. Then a figure in shimmering gold, and one with a trumpet and one with a scepter stood before me. They mocked me and danced a rigadoon and vanished. All was changed again. Out of a bower of poppies, a woman bared her breasts and lifted her open mouth to mine. I kissed her. The taste of her lippy was like salt. He left blood on my lips. I felt exhausted. I arose and ascended higher, but a mist as from an iceberg clouded my steps. I was cold and in pain. Then the sun streamed on me again, and I saw the mists below me, hiding all below them. And I bent over my staff, knew myself silhouetted against the snow. And above me was the soundless air, pierced by the cone of ice, over which hung a solitary star. A shudder of ecstasy, a shudder of fear ran through me, but I could not return to the slopes. Nay, I wish not to return, for the spent waves of the symphony of freedom lacked the ethereal cliffs about me. Therefore I climbed to the pinnacle. I flung away my staff. I touched that star. With my outstretched hand I vanished utterly, for the mountain delivers to infinite truth. Whosoever touches the star. Do you remember, oh Delphic Apollo, the sunset hour by the river, when Mickey and Blue cried, there's a ghost? And it's Delphic Apollo, and the son of the banker did us saying, it's light
by the flags at the water's edge, you half-witted fools. In advance, as the wearisome years rolled on, long after poor Mickey fell down in the water tower to his death. Down through bellowing darkness, I carried the vision which perished with him, like a rocket which falls and quenches its light in earth, and hid it out for fear of the son of the banker calling on Plutus to save me. Avenged were you for the shame of a fearful heart who left me alone till I saw you again in an hour when I seemed to be turned to a tree, with trunk and branches growing into rate, turning to stone, yet burgeoning. In laurel leaves and hosts of lamb and laurel, quivering, fluttering, shrinking, fighting the numbness creeping to their veins from the dying trunk and branches. 'Tis vain. Oh, used to fly the call of Apollo, fling yourselves in the fire, die let the song of spring, if die you must in the spring, for none shall look of Apollo on face of Apollo, and live and choose you must twixt death and the flame, as death after years of sorrow rooted fast in the earth, feeling the grisly hand not so much in the trunk as in the terrible numbness, creeping up to the laurel leaves that never cease to flourish until you fall. Oh, leaves of mead sincere for coronal wreaths and funeral, for urns of memory, treasured perhaps as things for hearts, heroic, peerless singers and livers. Delphic Apollo, Delphic Apollo, Delphic Apollo.
Of John Cabanis, wrath and of his strife, of hostile parties and his dire defeat, who led the common people in the cause of freedom for Spoon River, and the fall of Rhodes Bank that brought unnumbered woes and lost to many with engendered hate that flamed into the torch in anarch hands, to burn the courthouse on whose blackened wreck a fairer temple rose and progress stood, saying youths that lit the shun's face with smiles, who saw the ant like Greeks and Trojans crawl about Scamander over walls pursued, or else pursuing, and the funeral pyres and sacred hecatombs, and first because of Helen who with Paris fled to Troy as soulmate, and the wrath of Peleus' son decreed to lose Chryses, lovely spoil of war and dearest concubine. Say first fell son of night called Momus, through whose eyes no secret hides, and Thalia, smiling one, what bred twixt Thomas Rhodes and John Cabanis the deadly strife. His daughter Flossie, she returning from her wandering with a troop of strolling players, walked the village streets, her bracelets tinkling and with sparkling rings, and words of serpent wisdom, and a smile of cunning in her eyes. Then Thomas Rhodes, who ruled the church and ruled the bank as well, made known his disapproval of the maid, and all swooned ever whispered, and the eyes of all the church frowned on her, till she knew they feared her and condemned but them to flout. She gave the dance to viols and to flutes, brought some Kyoya and many youths, but lately made regenerate through the prayers of zealous creatures and of earnest souls danced merrily and sought her in the dance, who wore a dress so low of neck that eyes and straying might survey the snowy sward till it was lost in whiteness, with the dance till it was lost in whiteness.